Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
In a world driven by innovation and global connectivity, there's one name that stands out above the rest: Schultz Trade Law. With over 30 years providing legal and consulting services to Fortune 500 companies, Schultz Trade Law knows the challenges that businesses face in navigating the complex landscape of international trade. The legal and regulatory hurdles can impede growth and drain resources. But fear not, because Schultz Trade Law has the solution. At Schultz Trade Law, they've harnessed their vast knowledge of real-world trade challenges and legal expertise to create a seamless experience for businesses engaged in international trade. Their team of legal experts know how to streamline import and export compliance, resolve trade disputes, and optimize global supply chain operations. Learn more at schultztradelaw.com, where legal expertise leads the way to global success. Hey, folks, we are back from our time in San Antonio, and Lalo and I are going to, give a quick recap here of what happened. We had a good conference, but it was hot. There's no doubt. It's triple-digit temperatures, and I'm kind of surprised that the humidity is so high in San Antonio, but I guess it's just close enough to the Gulf and with the river and whatnot. But anyway, it was a good conference for ICPA, their fall conference. There was somewhere close to about 300 in attendance and another close to 100 or 80 or something like that on virtual. And but I don't know. What'd you think? It was saw some old faces, if you will, some good friends, as well as there were a lot of first timers. Usually at the fall conference, there's definitely a lot of first timers.
Yeah, that's what I saw this time around. I was about to say that. I said about the one thing that I noticed the most at this conference was that there were way more first timers than we have ever seen in the past. I mean, I don't have any stats. I don't go dig into that. Maybe we should, but we should ask Dana and Elizabeth and the people over at ICPA, some stats or stuff like that, so we can air that or record that. Yeah, relay it. Because I did see a lot of By the way, if y'all have never been to a conference here at ICPA or any of the other ones, but especially ICPA, if y'all never been to one, one of the things that they do is they give you your name tag, and on the name tag, they give you little ribbons. And some of those ribbons say if you're an exhibitor or a sponsor or a speaker or a board member. One of them is very distinct. It's bright yellow, and it says first timer. Yeah. And so that's how we could tell. So we can tell that there were quite a few first time. I saw a lot of yellow ribbons this time around, and not only that, but also not only attendees, but also exhibitors. I don't know if you were you there at lunch when they introduced all the new exhibitors? I mean, there was, I would say a third of them were all new. Yeah, a third of them were. Yeah, it's like, that's awesome. That's awesome to see that new companies, not new companies, but new supporters of ICPA are now exhibiting and showing off their services to the membership.
Hey, for our listeners, if you're a listener of any time, you have heard us talk about ICPA. For those that may not and go, what are they talking about? It stands for International Compliance Professionals Association. It's been around for about 20 years now, or 22 years now. It is actually a global or has membership from all over the world. There are conferences predominantly here in the U.S., of course. In Canada, there are several in Europe. There's been several in Asia. So if you are a compliance, a logistics, transportation, a purchasing group that deals sourcing internationally or whatever, ICPA should be a organization that you ought to check out and become a member of, because there are some resources there that you should look at and consider utilizing. But that said, Lalo, I got to say, again, the biggest thing that I see on any of these conferences, and it holds true for sure on ICPA, is the networking. There's no doubt the seminars are good, but the networking was phenomenal, and I saw a lot of good things with that. And I saw a lot of folks, like you said, the first timers. There were some seasoned people that had never been to a conference. There were a lot of rookies, if you will, in the industry. But one of the things I also see is that if you're networking, you're going to improve your chances for career development, for career advancement. So that's one of the things I think was came out of this. It was a good. It seemed to be a good conference
It's
to me
funny
as far
how
as.
the networking, like I wanted to bring that up on the networking, how if you go into your LinkedIn, I bet you, and if you look at your connections, if you look at the list of people who attended, I bet you there would never ever be a third degree connection to anybody that attended. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because
Right.
on LinkedIn, it'll give you your first connection or your second connection because you know somebody that's connected to that person, and there's third, right?
Right. Right.
Third is like you don't know anybody connected to them, but you know somebody who knows somebody who is connected. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
I bet you would never find it more than a two there. You know what I mean? It's just crazy how the
How that
networking
works.
is really big and really good on with ICPA.
Well, one of the things too, to our listeners, one of the things I was going to say, dealing with these conferences and looking at this is, I would just say that first off, definitely you need to reach out and get people's business cards or contact information, and make a point to, whether you're at ICPA or any conference, you need to do this, is that try and get at least 3 contacts that you actually develop some kind of a professional relationship with. The second thing, though, is with the attendees and all that, reach out on LinkedIn. Connect with them on LinkedIn. Connect with Lalo and myself. I mean, reach out to us.
Right.
We'd love to expand our networks, but also with we'd love to hear from you and send messages and things of that nature, and all that. So reach out to us. But from a career perspective, it's just it's also one of those things where, if you are looking to advance your career, you can, through LinkedIn, through these contacts and these conferences and whatever, you can ask and say, hey, you know what? I would love to call you at some point and just talk through some ideas, talk over career ideas and all that. I guarantee you there would be a lot of folks that would be open to that. And the other side, for those of us that have been around the horn here a few times, I would say, hey, are you reaching out and mentoring anybody? Are you reaching out and talking to anybody and giving them some guidance? And what is your legacy in the industry? So that's one of those things that'd be good. And again, I come back to the ICPA. I see a lot of that there've been people who've been around a while, and it is so good to be able to go out and see. And again, we thank you for. Listen, Lalo, I got to tell you, I had several people that uh, showed up at this conference here that have been listening to our podcast and had never met us
Right.
before. And oh my gosh, they were all excited about getting to meet us, or whatever. One had another person that, and I happened to be standing behind them talking to somebody, and they heard my voice, I guess, and they were like, "Oh, wait a minute, I think I listened to you." And I'm like, "Yeah," and we introduced ourselves, and it was great. So, hey, by the
Right.
way, um, we need to do a shout out to Thomson Reuters. They hosted a dinner for several people on Monday night, and it was quite a nice. It was a nice dinner. It was a nice social event and all that. And unfortunately, we were going to try and record them, do a little video snap of them. And so, to their credit, unfortunately, they weren't at the booth when we were available, so our schedules didn't line up. But I just wanted to stop and say to the Thomson Reuters folks, y'all did a great job as far as hosting that and whatnot. Not to undermine anybody else that was having anything going on, but I just wanted to say thank you to, they allowed me to tag along on that, as well as the people just had a blast. We went to a German restaurant in San Antonio that was really, really good.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of which, just so that everybody knows, so this episode we're just recapping the whole event. Unlike other recaps that we've had, wrap ups that we've had of other conferences, we're not necessarily going to air any clips of the event in this episode, but we will have video for it. So we're putting that together. So just so you all know, and this is one of my biggest complaints, I hope somebody hears this. I know the ICPA people have no control over this, but I mean, if anybody out there can do something about this, why do business hotels not allow business grade internet connection
Oh my
to
gosh.
business visitors? It was the worst
Mhm.
internet connection, that and at Disney. I mean, I cannot. It took,
Yeah,
and I'm
this
not
was
lying.
Hyatt. This one
Yeah,
was high. We've been at Hilton's, we've been at Marriott properties, we've been at Disney, we've been at, and to your point, and again, reaching out and at any of the hotel chains, if you want to reach out to us and talk to us, we'd be glad to talk to you. But we're trying to promote the conference. We're trying, and others are too. But I mean, we're trying to, while we're there, we're trying to interview people, and we do interview people. Obviously, we want to upload that. We'd love to stream. And even when you buy, I think this is where you're going. Even when you
yeah.
upgrade to their, faster, it's not.
No,
It's like
no,
an
no,
egg
no, no,
sucking dog, man. I'm going to tell you, this
no.
is just not. It's horrible.
I went to the business center to try and again get their upgraded service. I mean, it was just bumping me up. It was taking my uploads from, and guys, it's gonna sound ridiculous, but I mean, of course, I am dealing with video. So, in all
Hmm.
fairness, I am dealing with video, and I was uploading, I think, 100, maybe 100 gigabits. I'm sorry, 100 gigabytes
Megabit. Oh,
no, giga. No, it was gigabytes of data that I was uploading because of the video files are very heavy.
right.
Of course, here at work, that's going to take 5-10 minutes. We have a
Mhm.
1 gigabit speed. We have very fast internet. At my home, maybe it
Mhm.
would take 15 minutes. I'm not joking, guys. It took 18
Oh,
hours.
yes, yes,
Remember, I left it running overnight, so
yeah. On
it
the with the
it took
laptop in
it
the
took
hotel
yeah,
room, yeah, it
yeah,
was crazy.
it took 18 hours to upload most of the videos. I'm not saying all of them because it timed out and would say it's
Hmm.
been connecting too long or whatever. So 18 hours. And so it was just not, we just did not have the bandwidth available to. Oh, by the way, so the upgraded service was going to probably take me from 18 hours to like 16 hours or 14 hours. I was like, what? I'm not going to sit here and pay for 14 hours of internet connection. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
anyway, so we, we apologize that those clips did not make it to our production team and
right.
our
During the
editors
conference.
Mara and Daniel, who do a great job of putting together clips. So just now they are releasing some of those. We're throwing some of those out
Hmm.
on LinkedIn, but I do promise we will put together a whole montage, maybe an hour long, or any up to an hour long, of data, of not data, of
Yeah,
clips and
yeah.
highlights,
And they're worth, and hey guys, they're really worth watching, and it's good, and especially we'll have people tagged in them. But it's one of those things where instead of on the audio, it's going to be on the video portion on that. So, um, it, Oh, it's the dot trade, isn't it?
Yeah, on
Platform.
crowd.trade. Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
put it on crowd.trade, but we'll also put it on YouTube. So and then always check the show notes. And if once we publish the show, if you don't see the show notes with reference to the video, come back and look for it maybe a week later, because I'll edit the notes and then I'll put it back in there. It's just that it may not be available as of today, Thursday, which is very likely, because I'm telling you, our video people just barely got all the video when I got back home yesterday. So they're barely. They, you can only work so fast.
Well, let me say this too: is for future conferences, and this is something I would like our listeners to weigh in on. We're working on a couple of ideas. One of them is having some sessions that are simply trade podcasts, if you will. We will host that. We'll put a panel of people together to just kind of do a roundtable discussion on what's going on in the industry. I mean, there's different sessions, obviously, for education purposes, but I'm talking about something that you and I were talking about, and love for our listeners. We can talk about, what are the regulatory and industry affairs agenda items that are out there? What are the current trends as far as what you see regarding transportation, or um, cycle times or brokerage issues or whatever, and
Right.
just have several folks be able to what just irritates the stew out of you in the industry. Well, let's talk about it. And by having those kinds of discussions, vendors, if you will, government officials, others can listen and pick up on it and say, is there something they can do to make it a better situation? So
Right. And speaking of which, I guess this conference I was counting them, and they had 27, 28 sessions, all in three different tracks. And
mhm.
the annual conference coming up in March is going to have probably double, because I know it's a lot longer.
Well,
And
it'll be 3 days instead of two, so at least
yeah,
be
but
35% more.
they also go longer
Oh yeah,
on
that's
the
true.
day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, instead of having one, two, three, four, five sessions in one day per track, I think they end up having like 6 or 7 sessions per day per track or something like that. So
Whew, that's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah, they do have quite a few. So and then multiply that times 3 tracks per day. You're looking
Mhm.
at a lot of sessions, and I think they also repeat some just in case you miss some or something like that. But
Well, here's
they're
here's
worth
one of the
looking at.
things too, is that as that is Lila's a good point. All right, folks, your travel budgets, your things that you need to be looking at as far as for the next go round, and then in particular, what we're talking about is the annual conference for ICPA is in March. That's the big one for them. I think they're going to cap it at 900 on-site attendees. That's huge for compliance. But the point being is that that's a conference that probably need to look at bringing, if you have several folks in your department, that may be a good one to bring several people, or even bring your boss to, and have them cover, maybe not all 3 days, but cover, maybe one
Right.
day or something, and have people come and go. The point being is that way you can cover different topics. And then here's the other thing: if you are an attendee of any conference for that matter, when you go, you need to make a point. You go through the justification to do travel approval for attending one of these conferences. You really should take and recap some of the things that you've learned, some of the things that happened from a highlight perspective. Don't give a long dissertation, but cut it to the chases. Here's the key things we need to look at, or here's the action or knowledge that the action needs you need to take, or the knowledge that you've gained and want to share, and recap that and send that back out with also a particular thank you to your superiors for doing the travel approval. Here's what you gain from it, so that there's return on investment in a sense from that, from a training perspective. Because so often you go through all that training, or go through all that travel approval, you go and then nobody ever hears anything. Well, you need to come and bring it back around. Hey, be appreciative and show your upper management that this was worthwhile, and here's why, and here's what you learned. So, FYI.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that is a very good point because we heard, and when we interviewed people at the conference, I heard that a lot. I heard that a lot of attendees are excited to take this back to their team and
Mm-hmm.
share what they've learned. And even though maybe they have been in the industry, like even some veterans that have been in the industry for a while,
Right.
said
Oh,
maybe
they
I
learned
might not have.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. They said maybe I didn't learn a lot. I learned something, but what I did learn was how to take this back to those that are barely learning and teach them
Yes.
those new, because sometimes actually as an individual it's hard to put your ideas and your experience in words where you can teach somebody. I mean, you can explain to them, but sometimes it,
Mm-hmm.
to teach them. But anyway, they go back with some really good takeaways and information that they can share with their team. And you're right, if you tell your not your C-suite, it doesn't have to be your C-suite, but your management team, how
Yeah.
you learn, what you learn, how you can put things in action. Oh gosh, that is a big win for your team and for your company.
Point being is, folks, it's common sense kind of thing, but sometimes it's always good to have a refresher, even if you're seasoned. It's like, you know what? Time to knock the cobwebs off of some basic fundamentals, review them again, and go back. And that's what all great sports teams do, if you will, is you go over the fundamentals. One of the best coaches, if it not the best coach ever, was a guy by the name of John Wooden. He was a basketball coach for UCLA and had so many national championships. And the thing that he did year after year after year, the first thing he wound up doing with some of his team, or one of the first things, every single year, is go over how a player should put on their socks and their shoes and how they should tie their shoes. Basic fundamental things, but did it year after year so that, some of the players would go, why do you do this every year? It's like, you know what? I would rather we go over this fundamental so you don't get a blister or something on your foot, because having a blister, it's going to negatively impact your play, and it's as simple as it is, and you go through all that, and it just doesn't hurt to go over the fundamentals. Same thing with your compliance, your logistics, your operations, and all of that. Go over the fundamentals constantly. So,
Exactly. Okay. Well,
mhm.
again, there's not much more that we could recap. I mean, we can go on and talk about everybody we met, but look for that video, look for that
Yeah.
post, look for a bunch of posts coming down
Mm-hmm.
on LinkedIn as well. Just the short clips, Twitter, wherever you
Yeah.
may follow us. It doesn't matter. Twitter, Instagram. We're even trying Instagram now, believe it or not. But
Yeah.
anyway, YouTube Shorts, all that. So look at that. We'll have a bunch of posts there, and I guess I'll recap on my end, or not recap, but remind everyone for next year. It is March 17, 18, 19, and 20. It will be in San Diego. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be at they're they've had it at this hotel before, but it's at the Grand Hyatt there in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Their theme at that conference is going to be wild about compliance, because they're going to use the San Diego Zoo as their theme, and there will be an outing at the San Diego Zoo, I think on Tuesday
Oh,
night,
wow. I love
where
that zoo. That
yeah, yeah,
is so
it's
cool.
amazing. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
the outing, it's going to be very similar to what they've done in the past, where you do a scavenger hunt or something. But anyway,
Yeah.
it'll always be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Registration is open now, if I'm not mistaken. So go get your ticket. And I'm not lying about when I say if you don't get your tickets now, it definitely will be sold out before
It'll
Christmas.
be
I
filled
mean,
up. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
It'll be sold out
there's no doubt
before
it'll
long.
be sold out before Christmas. So if you're
Well,
a
one other
vendor,
thing too is also don't forget about the European conference is coming up in June. But you started listening.
right?
I'm sorry, I jumped in on you. Yeah,
No,
if
no,
you're a
that's it.
vendor to be an exhibitor at the conference, at the
You
San
need to
Diego
do that now.
conference. Yeah,
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 Yeah, if you don't do it now, you may actually be out of luck now, but
Yeah.
you may try. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But anyway, but yeah, like what you were saying for next year, Andy, go ahead. Yeah, so March is the annual conference. April is a European in
Is it
Dublin.
April or I thought it was June?
No, they moved it to April 24 and
Oh, did they?
25.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
uh-huh.
And it's going to be in Dublin, Ireland.
Right.
Which, by the way, shout out to
Shout
Fiona.
out.
We've
Fiona.
to the what is it? The International Trade Institute is a new
Right.
training company in Europe. That's Fiona, and forgive me, I've just forgotten her last name, but she is. We met this young lady that she is one of the co-founders of that company, and she traveled from. She lives in Dublin, so she's going to be at the Dublin conference, obviously. And what a sheer pleasure to get to meet her. She and her company, her colleagues, I think are going to be great in a lot of things. But it was just a sheer pleasure to get to talk to her.
Yes, Fiona Luciani. She's not Italian. She married an Italian. She told us. And
I was going to say, wait a minute, Irish, and that. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, that's right. She married.
She told us.
Hey.
She told us she married an Italian. Yeah. So.
All right, folks. With that, I guess you know what? It was a good conference, as these ICPA conferences are, and really enjoyed it. Loved San Antonio. To the folks at San Antonio, your tourism folks and whatnot. What a great city. You guys have it was great. We'll be having some more on that. So, hey, folks, I'm telling you what, we appreciate you. We're past our 1 year anniversary here. You've seen some of our shows. We are looking forward to some of your feedback. So far, the feedback has been great on people talking to us personally. That's another thing that happened at the conference. People were listening to our new shows and that we released this past week.
Right.
And the feedback, I mean, oh my gosh, you guys are just, very kind with your comments, but it's been wonderful. But please make comments in LinkedIn, share things of that nature. We love our show is trending up even more. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how great things are going. So we appreciate the membership of ICPA. We appreciate those that are knocking on our door for the first time and listening to us. So thank you so much. I guess we need to get going here, Lalo. Anything last comments from you?
No, that's just it. I just thank you all and keep listening. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming up. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest in the show or would like to sponsor Simply Trade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com or you can DM us on Twitter at SimplyTradePod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.